Welcome to this Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the story of an absolute phenomenon. We're looking at how a staggering work ethic and, honestly, just a relentless mental discipline forged one of the greatest athletes in human history, Cristiano Ronaldo. Look, this isn't just your standard story about natural sporting ability. No, it's a literal blueprint of how someone can completely rewrite their destiny through sheer force of will.
So, what if I told you that arguably the greatest footballer on the planet grew up in a tin-roofed shack on a tiny island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean? Seriously, imagine the guy who would one day score 900 career goals was once just a hungry kid kicking a rag ball around the narrow streets of Madeira, Portugal. I mean, it sounds totally made up, like a Hollywood script, right? But it's the absolute truth.
The contrast here is it's almost impossible to comprehend. Born in 1985, he was the youngest of 4 kids in a really struggling working-class family. His mom was a cook and a cleaner, and his dad was a gardener who'd sadly fought alcoholism his entire life. You've got 6 people crammed into one tiny house, barely scraping by. Now, flash forward to his reality today. He's the first billionaire footballer in history, the first men's player to hit 900 career goals. The gap between where he started and where he is now, it's absolutely cinematic.
Section 1. The Boy from Madeira, a Humble Beginning.
You know, what's truly fascinating is the mindset he showed at such a young age. Even amidst the chaos and poverty of his childhood, football became young Cristiano's sole escape. He'd kick a ball against the walls until his legs literally gave out. And at just 10 years old, he packed his bags, left his family, and moved hundreds of miles away for a trial in Lisbon. Picture this. He's surrounded by older boys who constantly mocked his island accent, calling him a farm boy. He cried himself to sleep, profoundly homesick and completely alone. But every single morning, he was the first one on the training pitch. Why? Because he already understood that pain is temporary, but greatness is forever.
Section 2. Trials and Heartbreak, Early Obstacles.
Because before the trophies, there were some truly terrifying hurdles. We know he left for Lisbon at 10, right? Well, at age 15, doctors discovered a racing heart condition called tachycardia. This was a massive red flag that could have permanently ended his career before it even really started. Imagine being a 15-year-old kid lying on an operating table, genuinely wondering if he'll ever be allowed to play football again. But get this, the day after surgery, he was right back at training. It proved early on that his mentality is just relentless, unbreakable. From there, things move at lightning speed. A first-team debut for Sporting CP at 17, and then signing for Manchester United at 18.
And this quote? Legendary. Back in 2002, during an exhibition match against Manchester United, 17-year-old Ronaldo was so extraordinarily dominant that United's own players went to their legendary manager, Sir Alex Ferguson, at halftime. They literally told him, "Sign that kid tonight." Just think about that for a second. His opponents were the ones who convinced his future manager to buy him. So in 2003, for over £12 million, he arrived at Old Trafford.
Section 3. The Relentless Machine, the Internal Drive.
Now, the absolute crucial secret to his success is that Ronaldo was not always the most naturally gifted player on the pitch. What separated him were these incredibly rigid, machine-like habits. He trained while others rested. He worked when others celebrated. He studied his own mistakes instead of blaming everyone else. He slept on a super strict schedule, and he watched his diet obsessively. Get this, he even has 0 tattoos, which is pretty rare for a modern footballer, simply because he donates blood regularly and tattoos would get in the way of that. Every single inch of his life is managed with absolute purpose. His success, it is undeniably rooted in obsessive preparation. But of course, it wasn't a smooth ride. When he stepped into the brutal, hyper-physical world of the Premier League, he faced extreme adversity. After the 2006 World Cup, he actually faced real death threats from English fans. He was constantly picked apart by the media and doubted by pundits. But he didn't fold. He responded the only way he knew how, by working harder and training longer. He came back the very next season to win 3 consecutive Premier League titles, a Champions League, and in 2008, his very first Ballon d'Or, the most prestigious individual award in football. That homesick boy who cried alone in a dormitory? Yeah, he had just conquered England.
Section 4. Shattering the Records, Unbelievable Feats.
So, in 2009, Real Madrid signs him for a then world record £80 million. And what followed was a string of achievements that honestly defy belief. 140. That is his all-time record for goals scored in the Champions League, which is arguably the toughest club competition in the world.
And follow that up with 5. That's the staggering number of Ballon d'Or awards he's won, cementing him as a true generational great.
And then, 650 million. That's his current number of Instagram followers, which literally makes him the most followed person on the entire planet. His influence stretches way, way beyond just the football pitch.
The stats just keep compounding. 450 goals and 438 appearances for Real Madrid, the first player ever to win top-flight titles in England, Spain, and Italy. And looking ahead to the 2026 World Cup, he's setting his sights on making history at 41 years old as the oldest outfield player to start and score in 6 different World Cups. Just mind-blowing.
Section 5. A legacy of resilience. Emotional strength.
Now, while the numbers are staggering, what truly matters here is his emotional resilience. Take the 2016 European Championship final against France. This is perhaps his most emotional moment on a pitch. Ronaldo goes down injured after just 25 minutes. Tears are streaming down his face as a stretcher carries him off. For most players, that is exactly where the story ends, but instead of disappearing into the tunnel to sulk, he hobbled right back to the sideline. He passionately coached his teammates, screaming encouragement, refusing to stop fighting even when his own body was broken. Portugal ended up winning 1-0, securing their first major international trophy in history. Ronaldo, though completely shattered physically, was the loudest man celebrating. It just goes to show, champions don't just watch from the bench. They always find another way to influence the game.
And this resilience extends incredibly deep into his personal life, too. In 2005, his father died of alcoholism. In 2022, he suffered the devastating loss of his son's twin brother at birth, a profound grief that he actually shared with the world with raw, heartbreaking honesty. He's been constantly criticized, mocked, and doubted at every single stage of his journey. Yet every single time, he met these tragedies with an unshakable belief that he just wasn't done yet.
So what should we really take away from all this? It's that greatness was never about where you start. Cristiano Ronaldo grew up with absolutely nothing, and he built everything. He didn't do it because the world graciously handed him a chance. No, he did it because he firmly refused to accept a world where his dreams weren't possible. He turned every doubt, every loss, and every broken moment into greatness. Ultimately, it's about how hard you're willing to fight to get to where you need to be. Which leaves us with this final thought. The next time life gets hard, and let's be real, it will get hard, remember the boy from Madeira. Remember the tin-roofed house, the lonely tears in the dormitory, and the heart surgery at 15. And ask yourself, looking at whatever obstacles are standing in front of your own goals right now, how hard are you willing to fight? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I'll catch you next time.